What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader. Welcome back to the channel. I've got another Vintage Kenner Star Wars market update for you. Before I begin any further, let me say thank you to my Patreon supporters. You guys allow me to make more and better videos. Thanks again for all you guys do for the channel. If you're interested in becoming a Patreon, it's patreon.com/actionfiguregrader. I went with a pretty wide assortment for this video. Everything from loose and ungraded. We got some vehicles, we got some creatures, we've got some budget items, and we've got a few expensive items in here as well, as you can see by the thumbnail for this video. But let's go ahead and dig right in. I went with everything from very, very inexpensive all the way up to the very pricey. And here's one kind of in the middle. This was a 12-back Luke Skywalker with a lot of heavy, heavy damage. And I thought it was important to kind of show some of these sometimes because not everybody wants like an AFA 85 12-back Luke. It's just not affordable for a lot of folks. And this is a good example that, hey, if you want mint on cards and you're willing to live with a lot of damage, well, here you go. And I was a little surprised that it still went this high despite the heavy, heavy damage you can see on the card back. Big tear going all the way through. This is like an AFA 40. But here's the figure inside the blister. The figure looks pretty clean overall. The blister has some minor damage as well. Here's the back of it. You can see it's just got quite a bit of wear to it. But despite all of that wear, it just shows you how in demand 12-backs mint on card are. This one went for $580 on 21 bids plus 1070 shipping. So it's just one of those things. I mean, you can see here, it's torn all the way through. So it's like somebody cut through it. So it's a shame that it's in this kind of condition. But again, it's still mint on card. And you know, I'm sure that if you put it in like an acrylic, sliding acrylic case, like the ones that Case Shells offers, it would look a lot better than it does kind of out of the box like, or out of the case like this. Here was a dewback, and this is the original box, the 1978-ish box. And this was open, but I wanted to show this because, you know, again, there's folks out there that maybe are on a little bit tighter budget and they don't want to spend the crazy money. The big thing you got to remember for the dewback is that the reins can get cracked and broken like the ones in this example here. They break off really, really easily. So if you're looking for one without broken reins, be very careful. Make sure that you ask the seller lots of questions and photos for proof, and make sure you tell them to ship it correctly so it doesn't get broken in shipping. But this is a pretty common thing, unfortunately, with the dewback that happens. But this included the reins, and it looks like, I can't tell if this is the insert or not. It looks like that it is the insert that's also included with the original box. But that one still sold for $167.50 plus $11.75 shipping. You can probably double that or possibly even triple that for the box, the insert, cardboard insert, as well as for a near mint dewback without broken reins. So they can get pretty pricey. Cut cards are something that we have not talked about on the channel that much. I personally don't collect cut cards. I just, you know, I know that there's companies that do it, that will grade them for you. UKG and CAS, I know, have done examples where you send in a cut card and they kind of slide it in there, and then they just grade the condition of the figure based on what they can see. Obviously, you can't see the backside of the figure very well because it's still inside this cut blister. The blister's sealed, but they cut around it, and you know, obviously it came off a damaged card. So this was a lot that included the Tusken Raider, Han Solo, R5-D4, Luke Hoth, removable limbs, C-3PO, and then R2-D2. And this is the sensor scope R2-D2. So for this lot of 6, it sold for $850. So there is demand for these. It's just not something I'm interested in collecting. I just think it looks a little weird, but I'm not trying to offend anybody. If you like cut cards, then go for it. It's certainly a nice budget option if you don't want to. I mean, think about if you wanted to get all 6 of these figures mint on card. It would cost a lot more than $850 for decent card backs. So it's a nice option if you want like a sealed in bubble card or mint on card bubble like this. But it's just not something I personally collect. But there is a big contingent that do collect them. Here's another one. This was an original 12 R2. The one that was in that lot, again, was an R2 sensor scope. But this is an original R2. And this one looks like it came on a 12-back. So you can see that there. That one sold for $355 at auction, 40 bids. So clearly there's quite a bit of demand for those. And it's an interesting kind of side niche focus for some collectors. This was a nice one here. This is a PBP snaggletooth AFA 85 dark red suit Scar COO US. Now this is labeled US/Europe release, and the reason for that is that the PBP made in Spain snaggletooth did come on US cards, and you can look on the back. It's got kind of a matte finish to the back of the card back, and in the lower left-hand corner it'll say made in Spain, and they did that for all of the Cantina creatures. So this appeared in the US as well as on PBP card backs, probably on Palatoy card backs like the Palatoy Tri-Logo hybrids, for example. But anyway, this was a nice high grade. It was graded 85. That sold for $300 plus $17.85 shipping. And anytime you see Scar COO, that's a PvP. That's a PvP. So the original Pox, have a Hong Kong COO, as we've talked about on the channel ad nauseum. But really nice example with a new case, archival case, and somebody picked that up for a good price. Next up was a Taiwan Boba Fett Near Mint Plus AFA 85, and I'm assuming that that's the correct blaster. It looks like the dark blaster there, but that one sold for $480 US or 687 Australian on 33 bids. That closed on June 20th. So a nice Taiwan Fett there. I haven't dug into the correct blaster on that, but it looks like the black blaster that goes with the Taiwan Fett. It's got that dark belt on the Fett. Really nice example. And that price is down. Let's say what it is. I mean, the price is down, and it might be because it was in Australia. It might be just the timing as to when the auction ended. But we've documented several on the channel here recently that have sold for quite a bit higher than $480. So is this cracks in the armor for the vintage Kenner line for high grade loose Boba Fetts? I don't know. Somebody on the channel that mentioned, and we talked about it in the last subscriber comments video, that they're noting that loose graded Boba Fetts are finally coming down in price. And whether that's because the book of Boba Fett was terrible, or if it's because a lot of people submitted Boba Fetts over the last 6 months because of the run-up in price for high-grade, loose-graded Boba Fetts. I mean, there's millions of them out there, folks. So, clearly the Taiwans are in high demand. The painted helmet Taiwan is in high demand. Things like that. Very rare PBPs, stuff like that, Tri-Logos. But whether the common Hong Kongs will see the dip in price, a subscriber mentioned on the channel that he tracks them in an Excel file, and he says that prices are coming down. So if you don't have one and you're looking for a high-grade loose Boba Fett, the next 2 to 3 to 5 months are probably going to be pretty good time as the economy slows down a little bit. Here was a Han Solo Bespin UKG 85. This was the Hong Kong COO. It was listed for 125 pounds and it sold for 90. So that's a big discount. That's about a 25% discount off of the price. It was a brand new case style from UKG, beautiful figure, but that's a pretty significant price discount and a good price. I would have paid that all day long. Here was what was labeled as a working complete AT-AT walker, and I wanted to throw out a few vehicles, here and there. I don't do it enough, so I apologize for that. I'll try to do that where possible. The chin guns are the question, and let's see if it's got any reproduction parts. It comes with 2 vintage Stormtroopers with guns, the vintage AT-AT driver, vintage commander. It comes with a few figures. All parts are original except for the new motor and chin guns. So again, if you don't want to deal in repro, and the only reason I had a feeling this was repro is because the chin guns are so clear. They're not usually that clear. They're more like a whitish kind of milky finish to the AT-AT chin guns. So, and there are companies that make reproduction parts. So again, I'm not getting into the discussion about repro versus original. Me personally, I have no interest in collecting repro stuff, but there are people that do it just because they're on a budget. But despite all that, and here's all the figures that were included, so that's kind of cool. But despite all of those kind of comments, at least the seller, disclosed it. It sold for $404 on 22 bids plus $43 shipping. So the AT Walker is a very high demand vehicle. I used to have one. Mine was all original. All original. I don't know if it worked or not. I didn't test it when I sold it, but I sold mine for like $150. I just didn't have the room for it, but it was 100% original. It was missing like 1 or 2 stickers. But I think the stickers were original and I had them all, but they had fallen off. But I included them in a little baggie. So somebody got a really good deal relative to what this one sold for, given that this one had reproduction parts. Here was a die-cast Star Destroyer. This was an interesting one. It included the little Tantive 4 plug-in that plugs into the bottom of it. This part alone can go for what this thing sold for. This thing sold for $70 plus $9 shipping. That one part alone can sell for $45 to $70. I've seen it sell for that. And this was by no means mint. I mean, the big thing about this die-cast Star Destroyer, if you're buying it loose, is that these edges on the outside always have chipping. Always. It's so hard to find clean ones. And oftentimes you'll see some yellowing too on this part, that middle part, that plastic piece that's kind of like the tower that goes above the main fuselage. That gets yellowed. But this one had a lot of chipping on it, and this is one that I'd like to get loose graded. And I've seen a few that were just so mint, and the timing didn't work out for me to bid on them. But anyway, this one sold for $79. That's a pretty good price for a 100% complete die-cast Star Destroyer. Speaking of die-cast, here was one that was interesting. This was a mint-on sealed card, or mint-in package Slave 1, but it had a lot of flaws. Obviously, it had big creases on the top of the card, and it had 649 written in marker on the card back. And the Slave 1, even though it was mint-in sealed bubble, it has yellowing on the plastic portion of the vehicle. So that's a common problem with this Slave 1. But despite all of those flaws, it still sold. It was listed for $600. It sold for $500. Now, we documented one that was in much better condition with a clear blister and a non-yellowed die-cast vehicle that sold at Hakes for like $460, $480 after the buyer's premium. So that was a better deal than this one. But this is a nice card. I'm not trying to say this is not nice. It's cool. It's anytime you get a die-cast Slave 1 mint-on sealed card, that's a cool item. And despite the flaws on it, it's a great item. But so this wasn't too far off versus the one on Hakes that sold that we documented. The card back was in better condition on this one, but it did have writing on it, and the vehicle was yellowed, and the blister was yellowed. So tit for tat, apples and oranges, tomato, tomato. It is what it is. Here was a really interesting one. I was so tempted to bid on this. This was the Revenge of the Jedi offer sticker 48 back Cloud Car Pilot. The blister was crystal clear, and it had the Boba Fett coin offer. That's a very tough combination. You don't see this coin offer usually on Empire Strikes Back cards. It was right towards the end of the manufacturing batches for these ESBs. The 48 backs were the last 4 ESB card backs, and then they moved over to the 48 back Nien Nunb offer transition cards on the Return of the Jedi card back. So usually you don't see the coin offer on these. And so I was so tempted to get this just as another variation for my Cloud Car run. And I probably should have bid on it because it only sold for $325 pounds, and which is $400 US. That's a pretty good deal and in pretty good condition overall. Here's the back of the card. Probably a 75 plus or maybe a low 80, but I think that was a good deal, whoever got that one. Here was a baggie. This is a prune face sealed baggie. That one sold for $80 on 18 bids plus $7 shipping. It looked nice, heat sealed baggie, very clean. And the other baggie I wanted to pull up was the Hoth Rebel Commander. That one was also in a heat sealed baggie. That sold for $175 plus $9.45 shipping. I watched this one for a while. I was tempted on this one because it looked really clean, but it's sold for more money than I was willing to spend. But yeah, that's an expensive baggie apparently. Here was a made in Mexico Paplu US 79 card back. Clear blister, as most MEMS are, and it had the Sears offer sticker. But all Paplus were made in Mexico. You can see figures made in Mexico in the bottom portion on the back of the card back. But nice and clean. Had a little bit of wear around the hang tab. That sold for $167.50. Free shipping. That's a good deal. That's a really good deal there, I think, for like a low 80, maybe 75 plus Paplu. Next up, this is an interesting one. This is the Imperial Shuttle. Complete works with the instructions. It was yellowed, though. You can see how yellow the plastic is on the fuselage. I like saying that word, fuselage. It makes me sound a lot smarter than I really am. But anyway, this is the Imperial Shuttle, and very cool item, just so big. It's way too big for me. $350 took that home on free shipping, too. I think that's a pretty good price. Mint and sealed box, those can go for 2,000 bucks. So that's a good, or more, $2,500. Here was an AFA 75 General Madine on the 77 back A, but it had a clear blister unpunched. What a beauty. That's a tough one to find on a clear blister. That was a gorgeous, gorgeous example. That one sold for 600 Australian dollars or 420 US. Here was a clear blister R5D4 on a 65 back. I watched this one, but I was just like, you can see the wear around the hang tab there. Probably at best a 75 at best, but it was a clear blister, and that's one I'd like to get. It just wasn't quite perfect enough. I'm just OCD with my condition of the card back, but it's probably a 70 or 75 at best. But that one sold for $350 plus $15 shipping. I think that's a pretty good price, really. I mean, maybe a little high, but I don't think so. I think for any clear blister or Return of the Jedi, you're going to be paying some pretty significant money for it. And this one was an interesting one. This is, I think, the same. No, this is the 65 back. This was the 77 back, but it was very yellowed. The card back was in better condition. It had a little bit of wear around the hang tab, but I was, you can see some wear right here. But I'd say the card was in better condition, but it's yellowed. That one was listed for $725. That sold for $550. So if you compare this versus the card back on this one that was in worse condition, but a clear blister, I would have taken this for half the price. I would have taken that one, or maybe a little bit more than half the price. I would have taken that one all day long. But anyway, another data point for those of you who collect R5D4, and I know that you're out there. I get messages from you all the time, so that's good. Here was a 65 back Boba Fett desert scene. So the alternate card back, it had some wear behind it. It looks open to me, and you can see it's got a cut all the way through the card, like that one we just showed you, and it's opened. So it's not even sealed, and it's still sold for $1,200. Come on, give me a break. That's ridiculous. I wouldn't pay that. I wouldn't pay anywhere close to that. But there are people that will buy these and then send them into CAS or UKG, and they'll kind of put the blister support around it, and then they'll loose grade the figure. Now, is it worth $1,200 to me? No. You're really getting a loose figure plus, a bubble plus a card back. But it is the Taiwan Fett apparently. So, you're going to be paying some big money for that. So it's almost like an uncirculated figure, right? So I can understand why somebody paid that, but me personally, I'm not paying that. Here was a Tri-Logo Biker Scout. This one sold for $600. Pretty decent condition overall, probably like a 75 plus. The blister had a little bit of dings to it, but just a data point there for those of you looking for a Biker Scout. Shout out to Jules Burt Collections and Unboxings. He's looking for one of these. So if you see one that's a fair price and in really good condition, send me a message. This had the etched blister. As you can see there, it's got the etched edges on the blister. That's a common thing. You can get rounded. You can get the etched. You can get the smaller, thinner Meccano bubbles. I mean, there's all kinds of different bubble combinations, but that one had the etched edges. Here was a Tri-Logo R2D2 sensor scope. Heavy wear to the card back, but I wanted to show a budget item. That one sold for $150. $150 for a mint and sealed, mint on card Tri-Logo. Again, it had a lot of wear to it, but again, it's a nice budget item. Here was a beautiful Tri-Logo Darth Vader, unpunched, factory sealed. It was listed for 800 Canadian, and that sold for 620 Canadian. So a pretty decent discount there. About, let's call that 20 to 22% discount on a Tri-Logo Darth Vader, kind of in 70-ish condition. You can see the heavy wear to the card back. This one, I have no idea what's going on with Seis From. He continues to go up in ridiculous. I mean, this card back was really, it had litho damage. The blister was nice and clear. I'm assuming it's legit. It looks nice. It looks legit. But that sold for $22.49. What? What's going on? That's crazy. That's crazy talk. There's no way I'd pay that. But Seis From and Tig From, those are two big boys that are really, really jumping in price despite what we think might be a slowdown coming. But this sales price of $22.49.95 is very, very high. That's a very high number. And then finally, another interesting one that I hadn't talked about on the channel before. This was the Ewok Battle Wagon from the Ewok toy line. It was complete, and they are expensive. Mint and seal box, you can triple this number. That sold for $535 on 9 bids. Pretty cool looking item. It's a little too Fisher price for me, but it's a very high demand and item, and that's not produced in big numbers, but pretty cool, I guess. And 535 shows that there is demand for this item. So anyway, that's all I really had for this video. What are you guys seeing out there? Are you seeing any slowdown in prices? Are you picking up anything good? Comment below. Please like the video. It helps out the channel. Thanks again, and I'll be back soon.